Uh, Hi, still morning. Good morning, everyone. As we had yesterday, if you were in yesterday's talk, we are having a lot of technical problems. Happy Saturday, happy weekend. Uh, Before we proceed, I just want to say I need to turn off everything else that is running in the background. Hold on a second, yeah. So
Hi, Anis. Good
everyone
morning.
can hear us, huh? Can we get a thumbs up if things are okay? Going to Facebook is a little bit of a hassle. You gotta settle with the. Okay, everything seems to be all good, or at least I think.
There are no thumbs up though.
No thumbs up.
Everyone?
There's a thumbs up there. Anyone in the chat? It's all right. I get to know because on Facebook it's running. So
Oh, okay. All right.
okay. So all right. Again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our 17th installment of our webinar. Today we'll be talking about setting up your own practice. Are you ready? It's too late for me to answer that question because I'm already 7 years in to my practice. But for all you young lawyers out there, which is the host of today's webinar, the Young Lawyers Committee, we have Anis with us, who heads the Young Lawyers Committee. And then, of course, not unknown to the Johor Bar is Mr. R. Jayabalan. Uh, they are here to shed some wisdom on setting up your own practice and the pitfalls, maybe address your concerns in setting up your new firm. We just, for fun, while sorting our issue, we made a poll in the crowdcast, Mr. Evelyn,
Yeah.
and everyone has various reasons why they may or may not want to open their firm, but we'll address that as we go along. Again, SOP as usual. Attendance at the end of the webinar. The link will pop up. If you're in Facebook, it will be pointed out there. So without wasting any more time, I think let's hear from a few words from Anis, and before we pass it on to Mr. Jayabalan.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Dale, for that introduction. The reason I've been asked to start is because I'm supposed to lay down the groundworks and also the basis for why we are having this webinar. Before we jump into the substantive part of this webinar, which will be delivered by Mr. Jayabalan. The idea of this talk came about when my subcommittee was discussing the real problems and the real challenges that are faced by some young lawyers at a certain time or a certain age of their practice or of their years of experience. So one of the issues was that sometimes you reach a certain number of years, then you start thinking, oh, am I ready? Should I start out on my own? Because you feel stifled at your current workplace, you feel that your abilities aren't being maximized, or you feel like you should take a more, leadership role, or mostly, people want better control of their time. For example, we did the poll just now, and some of you, want to open your own firm because you want more money. That's 4 votes for that. But there's more votes for I need freedom and time. So basically, today we will be able to maybe ask Mr. Jaya whether it's true that you can make more money, and also whether it's true that you can have more time. From my experience, I got called in 2015, so I'm about 4 years in, and I'm actually now managing my own practice. From my experience, no, you don't have more time, you actually have less, but I guess that's dependent on each individual. So to answer these questions, we thought we'll organize this practical webinar instead of a normal webinar where we're teaching you the law, so that we can provide some guidance and also some advice, so that the younger members can feel more equipped and ready to start on your own. Interestingly, we did a poll on how many years of practice the members are, and we have some that are also after 7 years. So even though you're technically not a young lawyer, we'll be okay for today. We'll accept you into the fold. But yeah. So some of the questions that I've asked Mr. Jaya to answer in this webinar would be, when would be a good time to start? How much experience does one need before they should start, and how much experience is ideal? How much of the law should you know? Importantly, what are the practical considerations that need to be taken into account? Like, how much money should you have before you start out on your own? Also, what are the challenges and pitfalls that are usually faced? So some younger lawyers, when they start out, they realize that, money is a problem, or getting clients is a problem. So maybe Mr. Jaya can try and explain how that can be resolved. Also, what are the realities of managing your own practice? So for me, when I first started out, I realized that managing finances was very difficult because you have staff to pay for, office, rent, all these considerations. So how do you manage your finances? And another very important thing would be client management. How do you find clients? How do you keep your clients once you've already found them? Because clients, to me, are the hardest part of practice. And also, do you actually have better work-life balance? Or does it actually feel worse when you start on your own? So to answer all these questions, I've asked Mr. Jaya to, give this seminar. And Mr. Jaya presents his thoughts. Both Ms. Jaya and I, and also Dale, will be able to answer some of your questions and some of your concerns. So if throughout the webinar you have any questions, please just click on the Ask a Question button so that we can have a more open session. Because the idea of this webinar is to solve your problems, to answer some of your questions. So please feel free to ask a question. Mr. Jaya, you can start.
All right. Thank you, Anis. Thank you, Dale. First of all, let me apologize to Anis, Dale, and also to all the participants. I think we were delayed by about 15 to 20 minutes just now. Guilty as charged is my fault. I had some technical issues on my side. I think we just managed to sort it out. I hope, Anis, you can still hear me now. Anis, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay. Dale, can you hear me as well?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Let me answer the two questions that Anis raised before I proceed further. You asked me this question that, look, do you really make more money by setting up on your own? And secondly, do you really have more time by setting up on your own? We will discuss that in detail, but I think this is a bothering question. Let me give the answer now. You do not necessarily make more money, or you do not necessarily have more time. All right. But the key is you get to control time. All right. You get to control time. You get to control your revenue stream. So you actually get control, which by working as an LA, you do not have that. You probably make more money and all that, but you do not have control over time. You do not have control over revenue. That's from my own experience. Correct? So we will address that in detail later. Now, mostly, first of all, thank you to Jehovah for inviting me to present this talk. Thank you to Anis. It's always a pleasure to answer Anis's call. And it's even more pleasure to do work for the Young Lawyers Committee. I mean, I'm always looking forward to work with the Young Lawyers Committee. Now, Anis has asked me to address some of the issues, so I've tried to cover as much as I can. I'm not an expert in this subject, but when I decided to give this talk, what I thought is it will more as a sharing of my experience. Different lawyers will actually have different ideas, all right, as to how to go about in your practice. But I will probably try to reflect more from my own practice, all right, from my own experience. I was called in 1997, and I was an LA for about 3 years, right? Then I became a partner in a mid-sized partnership. It's about six partners. I was a partner for about 13 years. Then I decided to go out on my own and set up my own practice. I'm running a sole proprietorship. So, I have seen life as an LA. I have seen life as a partner. And then why after 15 years, more or less, I decided to go on my own and decided to make the jump, all right? And when I prepared this talk, I had all this in my mind. So it's more like a sharing of my experience. Okay, so now the question would be, I go to my slides. Anis, we'll jump straight into the slides. Okay, I think this is our topic, setting up your own practice. Are you ready? Now, these are the points of discussion. The next slide. These are the issues that I hope to discuss with the members here. I think these are the bugging questions. When do you start on your own? If you decide to set up on your own, what are the requirements, right? If you decide to set up on your own, what sort of practice that you want to do? Is it sole proprietorship? Is it partnership? And then there is a new thing called group law practice. Look, is it a viable option? And then if you set up your practice, you have to keep in mind certain plannings, all right, in order to have a successful, in order to run a smooth firm, so that you won't have any problem with your operations. You need to have this planning, the major ones: accounts management, financial planning, business planning, and then you got to have your management planning, and then you got to deal with client management. And I agree, clients, well, I can't find the right word to describe clients, but let me say this: you can't live with them, you can't live without them as well. So they are unnecessary. Like it or not, we can't live without them. All right. And I think it's the other way as well. Now I move on. We will try to address all these issues as we go on. Now the next slide. When do you want to start on your own? First question is, when do you feel you are ready? I think that's the point. I always tell young lawyers, do not just, as soon as you are called, don't set up your firm straight away. Do not set up your firm for the sake of running your own practice. You must feel that you are ready. At what point do you feel that you are ready, right? Well, generally, I would say that you should set up on your own once you have a steady knowledge about running your own practice. You have a general idea how the law works. You have a general idea of the body of laws, and then you have a general idea as to how a firm should be run. All right. All these are experiences that you gain in the course of your practice as an LA. So you will see how things going on, and then you develop your own idea. But most important thing is you must have a general idea of the body of law. That's very, very important, right? You need to know about practice and firm management as well. So in your current firm, while you do your cases, all right, while you do your cases, you prepare your opinion and so on. Also keep an eye, how is your boss running the firm? How is your boss treating the lawyers? How is your boss treating the staff? All right. How does the staff treat you? So that will give you an idea. All right. And then you ask yourself, am I ready to handle all this? All right. Because if I go on my own, these are the things that I'm going to experience. So am I ready? Now, you got to gain confidence first. All right. That's why I always say you must have some confidence first that I will be able to do this on my own. All right. What are the things you must be able to handle the practice? You must have the confidence that you will be able to handle the financial and the business issues all by yourself. The key word is all by yourself. So are you ready to take the jump? Are you ready to do it all yourself? You see, doing cases on our own, we are all ready because that's how we are trained. But then again, lawyers, we are never trained to be a businessman. In our law school, we are never taught about accounting. We are never taught about human resource management. We are never taught about organizational behavior. We are never taught about recruitment and training. But then when you start coming out on your own, you have to deal with all this. Hence why there is a saying, lawyers, you may be a fantastic lawyer, but you probably are one of the lousiest bosses in town. All right. I know many lawyers in town, there are many jokes going on in town. There's so-and-so is a fantastic lawyer. I love him. I love working for him. But then again, he's a lousy boss. All right. Why? Because we are trained as lawyers. We are not trained as a businessman. The other key thing is, apart from confidence, is determination, and discipline is essential. Of course, when you're at LA, you need determination to do your cases. You need some sort of discipline in your work. But when you set up your own practice, these two things becomes even more important because there will be new challenges coming up every day. And not so much about your cases, Your staff will call. You got 3 staff. Your 3 staff will call. Or one day you say, we are all an MC. How do you deal with that? And you got to go, and you have to go to court. Right? And you have nobody else in the office. How do you deal with that? All right. So that's where the determination, your confidence comes in. Are you prepared to handle all that? Discipline. Look, you got to handle your cases. You got to meet your deadline in court. But at the same time, you got to handle your letters coming out, letters going in, your staff salary, your cost. That's where discipline comes in. Can you allocate your time management? How disciplined will you be in your time? Right? These are the things that two essential things. So my suggestion to young lawyers would be, do not rush. Experience and exposure as a legal assistant is very, very important. It's vital. It makes you a better boss. From my own experience, it makes me a better boss. When I started my practice, I was telling myself, after 3 years, I'm going to set up my own firm. After 3 years, then I said, no, I'm not ready. I'm going to do it after another 2 years. So it became 5 years. And when did I open up my firm? 10 years later. You know why? Because after some time, you get into the safety net. You feel that you're very comfortable in a particular environment and you do not think that I want to go further. So But then again, that experience that I gained as an LA, that's very important. So similarly for the younger lawyers, experience and exposure as legal assistant is vital. All right. So when do you start? To answer the question, when do you start? Don't start too soon and don't start too late. You got to somehow gain that confidence that all of us, we take our own time. But I would suggest a year, about 3 years is the best. All right. Gain yourself experience about 3 years and then think about setting up your own firm. Few years back, there was some complaint at the bar that, look, lawyers are setting up firms too soon. You get called after 2 months or 3 months. Father is a banker, or somebody in the house, some family business is doing housing development. So you think you have work ready, they want to set up their firm immediately. Within 6 months, complaints going into the disciplinary board. So there was a suggestion: why not we set up a minimum LA period, for example, 3 years or even 5 years before they are allowed to open up a firm. All right. Of course, it didn't gain much traction. All right. There are many young lawyers who are against it, so the bar didn't carry on with that. But again, coming back, experience and exposure as legal assistant is vital. So don't start too soon. So I move on to the next slide, Anis. Okay, now ask this question. Remember, I went on earlier saying that when do you start on your own? You got to get the feel. Now, what are the signs that you may be ready? All right, ask yourself. A lot of you are listening now. So ask yourself this question. These are the signs that you may be ready. You may be ready when you are able to understand the issues in your firm and you have a better idea of managing the issues than your boss. All right? You're able to provide leadership and resolution to the problems in your firm better than your boss. All right? One example of that is whenever there's a problem in the firm, the staff always goes to you first rather than going to the boss. When that happens, then you know already you're doing something good. You have actually shown certain values, all right? You have actually shown certain potential, and that's the reason why the staffs are coming to you first, all right? You will get an idea that you're ready when your own boss comes and asks you, hey, I got this problem with this staff, what do you think I should do, all right? Do I take this staff? All right, I got this staff is not listening to my advice. What do you think? That means you've already shown that you have something to contribute. Somehow, unbeknown to you, you have shown that you have the potential. You have shown hints that you're ready for it. Those are the signs that, look, okay, you are able to provide the leadership and resolution to the problems. Now, the third sign that when you may be ready is that you're no longer motivated in your current firm and you start looking for new challenges. All right. This is one of the things that happened to me as well. All right. After some time, I didn't feel a liking to the kind of work that you were doing. I wanted to try something new. All right. Then I also thought I want to do it in my own way. But I want to do things in my own way. All right. That doesn't necessarily mean that what is currently going on is wrong. It's just that I have a different idea. But when you're in existing setup, there are certain practices that are already entrenched. So they may not be ready, both your bosses and even your staff, to try something new. All right. And you feel that you want to do it. All right. So you're no longer motivated in your current firm because you feel everything is stagnant. I want to try something new. You want for new challenges, and you start to feel that means you are ready. The other thing is this: when you're no longer in control of your work or your professional development, right? This is a case where sometimes you're so busy with your work. At some point, you begin to wonder, what am I doing here? Why am I doing the same thing every day? All right, work coming in, I'm coming, taking the file, go to court, coming, tomorrow repeat the same thing again. And you do not get a chance to do something that you like, right? You do not get the chance to explore certain type of cases. You do not get a chance to go and develop yourself because you're so busy with work. That's what I mean when I say you're no longer in control of your own work. All right, work consumes you. All right, that's when the sign that you are ready to go on your own. Now again, I go back, Anis, if you don't mind, go back to the earlier slide. The last one is very important. A lot of us, when we set up a firm, we always think about money. My advice is financial consideration should not be the main reason. Because if you set financial consideration as the main reason for you to set up a firm, you are starting on the wrong footing. All right, you are not ready. If you think, I want to set up on my own because somebody said, look, if I'm on my own, I take all the takings. All right, so I make more money. Then, my friends, that's the wrong consideration. You will get into trouble as soon as possible. So I move on. Next slide. Again, what are the signs when you are ready? When you begin to feel the need to be independent, right? You somehow, for the first few years, it's okay. You felt happy to take instructions from your boss. But after a few years, you become a bit irritated. Each time they call you in, ask you to do this, ask you to do that, and then checking on what you're doing. And you begin to feel that, look, I know what I'm doing. I want to be independent. The moment you start to have that hunch, or rather itch, that means you're ready. All right. And you are confident in your skills as a lawyer in your chosen area of practice. All right. Throw whatever questions at you, throw whatever issues at you, throw whatever files at you, you are able to handle it. You are able to go and look for the answers. You may not know the answer. All right. You do not have the answer offhand, but you're very confident I'll be able to do this. That means you're already confident in your skill as a lawyer. That's a good sign. Of course, very important, you can't open your firm unless you got a client. So over the years, you have built up your contact, you have built up your networking, you have built up your friendship, all right? You have built up a certain name for yourself. So you're confident that you will be able to get work. So once you have that confidence, that means you're ready. And of course, you want to make a difference. I said earlier, you want to try something different, all right? Because always remember, when you join a particular firm as an LA, whether you like it or not, you have to follow the practices and culture in that firm. It is very unfair to your firm and your boss if you insist on doing something differently, because the firm has been doing well. They've been very successful in the way they've been doing. Now, when you come in and then you try to do something different, then you become a disruptive factor. No bosses, no staff, no establishment will take very kindly to that. All right. So you got to be very fair if you feel why the firm is not allowing me to try something different. And of course, when do you know you're ready is when you want to build your own brand. All right. You feel that I want to set up a name for myself. Right. I want lawyers in town or the public in town to know me as someone. All right. Now, because at some point you realize, however well you do your work, it is the firm that is recognized. All right. And you're just an employee of the firm. And you start to feel, I want to be recognized for my work. So in other words, you want to have your own identity. You want to have your own brand. So that is a sign that you are ready. All right. So this, if you're asking yourself this question, am I ready or not? Ask these things. Have you got yourself ticked under all these columns? If all these are ticked, or at least the majority of it, ladies and gentlemen, I think you are ready. I move on. Okay, now you have decided to go on your own. You got the vibe, you got the feel, you have ticked all the boxes, you have decided to set up your own practice. How to go about it? Several requirements. Let me deal with the regulatory requirements. First thing you must do, we cannot go and register at SSM. All right. First, very simple. We are a lucky lot. It's so easy for lawyers to set up a firm. Just send a letter to the bar council and say, look, I'm so and so. I intend to start my own practice. Tell them as a sole proprietorship or a partnership. Give your proposed name, Messrs. What, all right? And then where do you intend to practice? When do you intend to practice? Where do you intend to practice? And what are your contact particulars, your fax number, your email, and all that? Give that to the bar council. And then, of course, you must suggest a name. Well, here in Malaysia, the law firm's name must still follow our own name. All right? So name as per the IC. We have not advanced to the stage of having a generic name or a brand name, like in Singapore or even in, of course, in UK and US and all that. So forget about having a generic name. So you must propose your own name or a slight variation of your name. Of course, when you set up a firm, always remember there must be at least one resident lawyer in the office with a valid practicing certificate. If you are setting up a partnership, all right, you want to set up a branch in Johor Bahru, you want to set up a branch in Batu Pahat, make sure you have a lawyer, resident lawyer there, a resident lawyer here. Now, do not just register a resident lawyer, but then the same lawyer is all the time parked in Johor Bahru, and then you have someone called business development manager answering the calls there. Don't do that. Why I mentioned that? Because recently I called a particular firm. They've got 3 branches, and in that particular branch, they have registered 3 lawyers. When I called the firm, none of the lawyers were there. They're all based in Kuala Lumpur. And the person who's managing the office is this person called business development officer. Right? You're already asking for trouble. Right? Don't do that. So you must have a resident lawyer. You must state your office hours. Open at usual office hours at least 5 days a week. You cannot register a firm saying that, look, I only open 2 days in a week. Cannot. 5 days a week. I'll only open 9 to 1. Cannot. The moment you mention that, the bar council will not give you approval. Why? Because how do other lawyers serve documents on you? Look, if you open and close at odd hours. So that's the reason why. And then, again, guys, don't share your office with anybody. All right. Some of you might be thinking that, look, I know this uncle who's a very good developer. All right. He liked my work. He's telling me, why not you set up your own firm? I got this big office. You come set up in my office. No sharing of office. All right. You got to have your own office. Your office must be partitioned with separate entrances with no connecting doors with other offices. All right. Of course, you can have an office in your house. There's nothing wrong with that. But then again, at a separate location of your house, all right? So, you have a house, 5 rooms, maybe one room you designate as your office, all right? And you meet clients there. It is partitioned off from the surroundings, and it has got its own entrances. This, when we say sharing of offices, let me give you this example. Supposing you're taking up a shop lot, all right? Upper floor, second floor, there are 3 rooms. First room is an accounting firm. Second room is a developer's firm. Third room, you can take it. You can set up as your law office, provided that there are no connecting doors in between, and your office is only that room. All right, so you're not sharing. There is no door between your room and the accountant's room. All right, so in that sense, you can. That doesn't qualify as a sharing of premises. All right, I move on. Okay, now that you have decided to register, what do? Do you want to set up sole proprietorship or partnership? In Malaysia, there are only 2 types. Either you set up sole proprietorship or you set up a partnership. A lot of questions been going on for the last 6 months at least about limited liability partnership or even setting up a law corporation. Sadly, our laws have not allowed for limited liability partnership at the moment or even for law corporation. Of course, we have other instances, other businesses are allowed to operate as limited liability partnership because the LLP Act came into force some time back. The reason why it hasn't gone into legal profession is because legal profession is governed under a specific act called the Legal Profession Act. I'm sure all of you know that, all right? If you do not know that, ladies and gentlemen, you're not ready to open up your firm. Now, when it comes to the Legal Profession Act, the LPA need to be amended, all right, in order to include LLP or even LC, law corporation. LPA has not been amended. That's not the bar's fault, all right? A lot of people are blaming the bar for it. It's not the bar's fault. The bar was actually submitted the amendment about 8 years ago. I personally aware of it. We have submitted the amendment to the LPA to allow law firms to operate by way of LLP. It was submitted to the Aegis chambers, but it has been stuck there ever since. I think the bar has been pushing and pushing, but so many things taking place. Somehow that one thing has not moved forward. So no LLP at the moment, no LC at the moment. We have a new creature called group law practice as an option, but I'll come to that later. So now you decide, do you want to do sole proprietorship or do you want to do partnership? I move on. Now, okay, now you decided I'm an LA. I already have the inch. I have the confidence. I want to set up my own practice. So is it going to be sole proprietorship or partnership? These are the advantages and disadvantages. When you are sole prop, basically you are your own boss. You decide everything. Very easy decision making. You are truly your own boss. You decide everything in the firm, even the color of the pen. This is the part I like best. All right, you decide everything. All right, so much so you become a control freak. So you decide everything. You own everything as well. Whatever money that you make, whatever profit you make, you take the profit 100%. So that's a good thing. Taxation. Taxation is based on the normal income. All right, income less your allowable expenses. Then you have, it's cheaper to start when you start on your own. All right, less capital investment. I know a friend who started his own firm about maybe 12 years ago. He started actually from in the same scenario that I gave you just now. Upper floor of a shop lot, he operates from a room. He just took up a room. He registered the firm in that address and he's been operating from there very fast. Within a week, you can set up your own firm. So it's cheaper to start. Less investment, all right, because you're setting out on your own, so you do not need a large premises. You can control how much money you want to spend. It's easy to set up. It's easy to start and run. And this is the part that I like best. You decide the area of law that you want to do, all right? What kind of work that you want to do, right? You also decide the kind of client that you want to act, right? As an LA, you don't have that privilege. Whatever cases that walks in that your boss takes, he'll pass the file to you. You cannot tell your boss, oh, I don't want to do this case, all right? I don't like I think, our client is a bad fella here, all right? Like lawyers who do criminal work, if you are the LA, your boss takes up a particular criminal work, and then when you look at the facts, you're very uncomfortable. You think it's a clear-cut case, and personally you don't want to do it. But as an LA, you don't have that choice. But when you're your own boss, you have that choice. What kind of client you want to act for. You also decide your fee structure. All right, how much fees? Magistrate court cases, what would be your base fee? High court matters, what would be your base fee? So you have that independence, that liberty, that flexibility, and I even say it's a joy. Right, you get to decide because whatever that you charge, it goes to you. So you get to decide what is the fee structure. And it's also very easy to control operating costs. One of the reasons many partnerships fail is because of they couldn't control costs. All right, cost shots up. Because of that, profit goes down. When that goes down, that's where problem starts. Partnership, when everything, when the money is coming in, the partners are always happy. When the money stops coming in, when the money slows down, that's where the partners get into trouble. They begin to dislike each other. Why? Because you cannot control costs. All right, you may want to buy certain things, your partner may not agree to it. All right, you may want to invest in certain books, invest in certain journals, quite expensive. You want to invest in the business, your partner may not like it. All right, so you cannot control your costs. But when you are the sole prop, you'll be able to do that. I move on. What are the disadvantages? Well, if you take 100%, then you're also liable for 100%. All right, it cuts both ways. So you are 100% liable for all costs and debts. Now, this is another problem that we face. When you're a sole proprietor, it's very, very difficult to obtain financing. Most of the time, you have to come up with the funds yourself, usually your own savings or your own personal borrowing. If you intend to get financing from the banks in order to operate as a capital investment towards your firm, very, very difficult to get. Banks are very skeptical about individual firms. All right, they are considered as a risk. I know this also because I'm chairing the small firms practice committee at the Bar Council. One of the work over the years we have been doing is we have been engaging with many banks to come up with a special loan package, a tailored loan package for law firms. All right, we are making some headways there, but we know in our discussions with them, they always say, look, if it's sole proprietorship, they're very, very reluctant, unless they say the sole proprietor must have some properties under his name. But then again, if you're already only in your 2 years or 3 years of your practice, I'm sure you won't even have a house under your name. All right, so how do you get a bank loan? So if you don't get a bank loan and you don't have your own savings, there's no way you can move forward. So that is the drawback. All right, it's difficult to obtain financing. Now, when you are small, when you're a sole proprietor, it kind of limits your ability to compete with other firms, because most of the time you work alone. All right, so you can only do certain kind of work cases, complex cases, all right, which involves multiple witnesses, multiple parties, voluminous documents. Those kind of work you may not be able to handle, because you know why? You're operating with 1 or 2 staff, all right, and you are the only lawyer there. And when you take it, you will be so consumed in it, you think you're not ready for it, because that will take away your time from something else. So that cuts down your ability to compete with other firms. And then, of course, the big boys. When I say the big boys, I'm referring to the big clients. They usually will have less confidence in your ability to handle work. All right, the big boys, the big works hardly enters a sole proprietor's firm. Clients will come in, they discuss certain cases with you, big cases, complex cases. They'll ask for your fee quotation and so on. As they work out, they also monitor your firm, and then you see, look, you have 1 staff, 2 staff operating from 1 small lot, and then they'll start to feel, look, is it safe for me to hand over this matter to you? All right, and they also see that while talking to you, the staffs are coming in asking you to sign documents. You are rushing out to answer calls. All right, you are taking in too many calls at the same time. Then they start to feel, no lah, this boy is already busy. All right, I think let's not take the risk with him. So that disables your disability. Now, you will not have enough resources to handle complex work, as I said. All right, urgent works, you will not be able to do it. You will not have the time to do it. And there's always a risk. When you rush through work, we tend to make mistakes. So you're also exposing yourself towards risk. All right. As a result of all this, what happens is when you are sole proprietor, you are confined to a narrow or limited type of work only. Hence why I see many sole proprietors in town, they start off doing conveyancing work, and they've been doing it ever since. They set up a firm to do running down work, and they only do that kind of work. They set up a firm to do family law work, and that's the only work that they do. Why? Because after some time you realize you're not ready to move into other areas, it's too risky, and you don't have the time. So you rather continue doing what you know best, right? So automatically you are confining your income stream. When you limit your type of work, you are narrowing your income stream. Your revenue stream is limited. All right. And of course, if you're sole proprietorship, you work 24/7. All right. So you risk to be consumed by work and office commitments. There's no 9 to 5, ladies and gentlemen. You must be prepared to work 24 hours. All right. That's the risk. Now I move on. Supposing if it's a partnership, well, these are the advantages. It is a more formal management structure. It is better organized. You know why? You have partners. All right. Both of you are confident in each other. but you're also suspicious of each other. So therefore, you rather have everything put in writing. You have a more formal management structure. You know who will be in charge of management, who will in charge of cases, who will in charge of marketing, all right? Who will in charge of the stocks, right? Ordering books and so on. So it is more formal management structure as opposed to a sole proprietorship. There's more cost sharing between the partners. So there's a less financial risk here, because whatever setting up costs and all that, instead of you bearing everything by yourself, you will be sharing, all right? Workload can be divided. You tend to have more time because, look, we have 3 or 4 cases in a day, all right? So you can ask your partner to come and do it, all right? Provided, of course, your partner is also a hardworking fella, right? Liability is shared because, as you all know, if you are doing sole proprietorship, you 100% you carry the liability, and here is jointly and severally liable. When you run a partnership, you will be able to attract better work, all right? You'll be able to attract bigger clients. You'll be able to attract more complex work. Bigger clients, more complex work equals better revenue, all right? Higher revenue, more quality income. So that's important. It's not the volume that matters. I always tell young lawyers, even it's not the quality that matters. It's not how many files that you have, all right? It is the quality of the files. You can have one file, all right, but maybe a big matter where you can see a substantial fees. Instead of having 20 files, and you are getting even a fraction of what everyone else will be getting. So it's not quantity, it's the quality. So because you have partnership, you are able to provide more expertise to client. You'll be able to attract a variety of work. One person will be doing litigation, one person will be doing conveyancing, or one person will be doing, commercial matters. Another person will be doing tort matters. So you'll be able to attract a variety of work. You will notice that you have a more balanced lifestyle, all right? Because your working time will be more limited. You can spend time. You can go on holiday. All right, you can take time off because when you leave, your partner is in the office. Someone is keeping an eye on the office, which now people like Anis and myself, we can't do. All right, Fadil can do because he's got a partner. Now, when you have a partnership, succession planning is more viable. What is a succession planning? Meaning your long-term planning. All right, if you're sole prop, you will never know what happened. Look, in 10 years' time, what will happen? Am I going to bring a partnership or not? All right, do I want to become a partnership? But when you are a partnership already, you can actually plan yourself. It is better. Succession planning is more viable. Now, I move on. Again, what are the disadvantages? When one partner gets sued, everyone is liable. Because that is the law of partnership, because all of you share everything. All right. So when one partner is liable for negligence or becomes a debtor, it is the debt of the partnership. So all the partners are liable. Profit is shared. Is no more taking 100%. All right. Lesser taking. Whatever comes in, you share. Right? Now, next one is, of course, decision making. It slows organization because when you are sole prop, you decide everything immediately. All right, what do you want to do? What is the next step forward? But when you're a partnership, you need to consult with your partnership. All right, you need to have a consensus with your partnership. All right, before you decide what to do. Of course, this is good because there's a check and balance. All right, you do not rush into taking decisions. But then again, it also takes time. So it slows down organization. Partnership requires a lot of trust, understanding, give and take between partners. All right. I know friends, good friends, who have studied together, started together. They set up a partnership. All right. Within months, they split. Then you ask yourself, what went wrong? These are friends. All right. So it doesn't work in that way. All right. You need trust. All right. Don't set up a partnership just because you all studied together, just because it's a close friend. In fact, if you ask me, you got to be more careful when you have your close friend as a partner. All right, because everyone will take liberty. That's where you need a proper management setup. So it requires a lot of trust, understanding. Give and take is very, very important. If you're looking for it in the long term, you want to be a successful long-term partnership, give and take is very, very important. You cannot stay strict to the agreement. Flexibility is very important. Trust is very important. There may be 1 or 2 scenarios where your partner has decided without consulting you. Don't jump up. Have confidence. He would have decided what is best in the interest of the firm. All right. So you need that kind of confidence. Growth and expansion takes a longer time. All right. You cannot decide straight away what to do. So expansion, decision-making process, growth and expansion takes a much longer time because issue of cost. Now I move on. If you decide to go for a partnership, all right, these are the key areas. Number 1, as I said earlier, please find carefully the right partner. Don't engage a partner just because both of you were called together, or because both of you did a chambering together, or both of you studied together, right? That's the wrong consideration. Whoever is your partner, please have a written partnership agreement. Keep it formal. It's very, very good. Have a partnership agreement. What are the responsibilities? How much money we're going to put in? All right, each party how much? Okay, who will be in charge of management? Who will be in charge of court work? Who will be in charge of marketing? Put it in writing. It did not be a very lengthy agreement, at least a basic agreement, so that all of you will be on your toes. All of you will know what to do. You do not want a situation where when something goes wrong, you'll be fighting for the tables and chairs. All right, I've personally seen that happening. All right, you could have avoided that by having a partnership agreement. So your partnership agreement will actually provide, in the event there's a dissolution, all right, in the event we find ourselves unable to move forward, how do we part ways? Okay, you take what, I take what. So all that must be provided. Please, ladies and gentlemen, understand what is a partnership. Partnership only means equity partnership. 50% of everything, cost and also the profit. There are many young lawyers in town who carries a card who will proudly proclaim themselves, I'm a salaried partner. I'm a partner, or they say I'm a salaried partner. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no such thing as a salaried partner. A salaried partner is a misnomer, is a misleading term. A salaried partner is nothing but just a glorified LA. These are not my words. These are words that has come from one of the decisions. All right. A partner, simply because a partner cannot be an employee at the same time. If you're a partner, if you own part of the business, you are the owner, how can you also be an employee? It doesn't work. All right. Hence, all of you, many of you, who your boss has given a letter of appointment saying you are a salaried partner, ladies and gentlemen, in actual fact, you are only an LA. All right. You're asking for trouble by getting into the salaried partner arrangement. What you're actually having is you are paid a salary as an LA and you get a share of the files that you close. All right. That is a fee sharing. That is not a profit sharing. You become a partner when there is a profit sharing. So all of you who call yourself a salaried partner or has been appointed a salaried partner, please relook at your letter of appointment and position yourself carefully, right? I guess many of the bosses in town will be very upset with me, but I think that's a fact, all right? There are many lawyers, especially younger lawyers, who have gotten into trouble by allowing themselves to be appointed a salaried partner. You are not a partner, you're just an LA, right? I think the rest I've covered. Decide and define the areas of responsibility of each partner, keep a proper management structure. Please, of course, we all wish that our partnership will run without a problem, but in a worst case scenario, in the event there's a dispute, how do we do it? All right, so always include a dispute resolution mechanism. Why? Well, in the event the partnership doesn't go well, all right, you have to part ways. You don't want to fight for the tables and chairs. You don't want to go to court and fight it, and fight an open battle. And we lawyers, we gossip a lot. The moment we know that certain partnership having problem, we'll be talking, it becomes the talk of town. All right, that will become like one of the major discussions at lunches and our breakfast. So how can you avoid all that? You input a dispute resolution mechanism, whereby one example is you can say, look, in the event there's a dissolution, in the event there's any dispute, then this dispute is to be referred by a senior partner, by a senior lawyer in town, all right, a respectable lawyer in town who is acceptable to both parties, and his decision shall be final. Or you can say it should be resolved, any dispute between the partners should be resolved to a senior practitioner not less than 30 years in practice. The moment you put 30 years in practice, you're already cutting down your risk. All right. Any lawyer who has been practicing for more than 30 years in town, chances are is a very credible person. Someone who has got a proper sense of right and wrong. So you have something like that. And then accept his decision as final, so that you do not have an open battle. You don't start scratching at each other in public. So that's very, very important. Have that. Of course, if you propose that, your partner may not be very unhappy. He'll be thinking, why are you being very suspicious even at the beginning? But then again, it is for the benefit of both parties. I move further. Group law practice is a new creature. Now, group law practice is something that all of you should consider. This is an idea whereby it came out in June 2018. I was involved in this, in preparing the rules and so on. This is a mechanism which we came up with under the small firms practice in order to allow small firms to share premises. As I said earlier, law firms, we are not allowed to share premises. All right, we cannot share our resources. But then if you're part of a group law practice, you can share premises. So supposing you have friend A, friend B, you want to set up a firm. You want to set up a premises. You want to set up a premises. So but both of you want to take your own takings. You're not ready to share your income. So you don't want to set up a partnership. So what you can do is A will set up A and Co. B will set up B and Co. A and Co, B and Co will then apply to the Bar Council and say, we are a small firm because we are less than 5 lawyers. We want to set up a group law practice. And group law practice, you are allowed to have a brand name. Correct? Example, you can call yourself Danny Group Law Practice. So A and Co and B and Co will inform the Bar Council, we want to set up a group law practice under the name of Danny Group Law Practice. Now, the word Danny Group Law Practice is your brand name. The reason why my committee came up with that is we have always been pushing for branding and marketing. And under the existing publicity rules, because law firms must follow the lawyer's name, there's not much room for branding and marketing. So we thought, why not we push this by having a brand name under the group law practice? And we managed to get it done. Right? The AGC approved it and so on. So the word Danning becomes your brand name. All right? You can prepare your letterhead. You can put up a signboard under the name of Danning Group Law Practice together with A and Co and B and Co. So you can then operate from the same office. You can share your rental, you can share your staff salary, you can share your subscriptions, you can share your machineries. That is a big relief because you're sharing your cost. So you're getting the benefit of partnership, but at the same time, you are also getting the benefit of a sole proprietorship as well, both. Because you only share the cost, you don't share the profit. So you're not a partnership. So that's another option you may want to consider, right? Under the current rules, a maximum of 5 law firms can operate from the same premises, sharing your costs, resources, and infrastructure. You operate as a group, but you still maintain your respective separate legal identity. The idea why we came up with it is to reduce the operating cost for the small firms and to increase the competitiveness of small firms. If I'm A and Co, I don't do convincing, all right? Anis is B and Co, Anis does convincing, all right? And I like to do litigation. So what do we do? Okay, all of us, now if I get a convincing client, I pass it to someone else, all right? But when we operate as one, the client stays within us. So your client retention level will be very high, all right? We came up with that idea of brand name. So you have a marketing option, all right? Now imagine if your name is R. Jayabalan. How much marketing can you name with a name like R. Jayabalan, all right? But imagine if your name is Danny Group Law Practice. Think of the possibilities of marketing there. That's the reason why we came up with that. Now, the idea of group law practice is to enable small firms to work in mutual cooperation as a group without being partners. I move forward. I'm moving ahead, Anis. The next slide. All right, to enjoy the benefits of large partnership minus the implication, as I said earlier, these are the benefits: cost reduction, increased competitiveness, increase the firm profile, better client retention. You have a mentorship, because the idea of mentorship comes about. There are many sole proprietors in town, very young lawyers. All right, you're good in your work, but nobody knows you, so you don't get work coming in. And then you have someone who's in his 70s, all right, who knows everybody in town. All the businesses still go to him, although he doesn't go to court. All right, so he gets work coming in, but nobody to do the work. You can do the work, but nobody coming in to you. So if you set up a group law practice, you can harness each other's benefit, right? Number one. Number two, you also have a mentorship. See, you are 3 years in your practice, right? First 2 years in your practice, you have a big problem. You do not know what to do, and you have no idea. You're handling a difficult client. You are too embarrassed to call your friends, all right? Or maybe your friends are no better than you. You do not know many lawyers in town. So you take it all upon yourself, all right? And chances are you will make mistakes. But imagine if you're in a group law practice and you have this senior man who also sits within your office. All you have to do is you step out, you can share your problem with him. He can then tell you what to do. That's mentorship. That's priceless, ladies and gentlemen. You can be an excellent lawyer, but when it comes to dealing with certain issues, requires experience, requires wisdom, requires gray hair, all right? So that only comes from these experienced guys, all right? So mentorship becomes very important. You have less administrative burden and you have easy entry and exit mechanism, meaning it's very easy for you to apply to set up a group law practice. It's also very easy for you to come out. Look, after 6 months, you feel it's not working for you, all right? You don't like it, you want to come out. Very easy. We just write to the Bar Council and say, look, we don't think we want to continue with this, we want to exit. That's it, all right? And you can come out because your A and Co and B and Co remains as it is. Your practicing certificate remains as it is. It is not affected. So you can go in, you don't like it, you can come out. So if you want more information on that, you can look at the Malaysian Bar website. I move on. Now, these are the things that you should be looking at. Accounts management. Before you set up your firm, be familiar with this. These are the 3 main rules when it comes to accounts management. Solicitors Accounts Rules 1990. Read it. Please read it. How do you manage your current? What is a client's account? What is an office account? What is a trust account? Which money can go where? Which money you can take? Which money you should not even touch? You should not even think about it. All right. Okay. Be familiar with the accountant's reports rules. Right. Be familiar with the solicitor's account deposit interest rule. This is basically how do you handle with interest. Right. Client comes in, parks some money with in your client's account, and you think the money will not be used for the next 1 month or 2 months. What do? Do you put it in a fixed deposit? If the client don't tell you to put it in a fixed deposit, and then you put it in a fixed deposit, interest is earned. Who takes the interest? All right, these are the issues. This is very important. This might look basic, but a lot of lawyers have been subjected to the disciplinary board because of this, because of a lack of understanding of these 3 rules. All right, these are not very complex rules. It's only about 3 or 4 pages long. Read that first before you start your firm on the first day, before you open up the door. Always remember, when it comes to account, the rule of thumb: client's money is not our money. What is in the client's account is not ours. As long as you keep these 2 lines in your mind and you practice this, be very strict about it, chances are there's less risk of you getting into trouble. All right. There's no such thing as pinjam. Take money from here, put it here, tomorrow you put it back. The moment you dip your hand into it, it's already a misconduct. Although a few hours later, you have put back the money in. All right. So the idea is, if you have a client's account, forget about the client's account. All right. Just tell yourself the client account doesn't exist. All right. The more you have thinking about client's account, the more temptation comes in. Always get a good, professional, reliable accountant. All right. Don't just simply any accountant because you think that the purpose of an accountant is just to sign your accounting report. No. A good accountant will advise you from day one how to keep your taxes low. All right. How to deal with your money, how to deal with the deposits. All right. So very important. Invest some money in that. Next, practice area, practice management. Okay, now that you set up your own firm, you know how to deal with your account. Now, what kind of work that you want to do? Have an idea first. Before you set up your own firm, ask yourself, what kind of law that you want to practice? What area of law that you want to go in? Correct. Many guys, many lawyers, they go and set up, they specialize too early. All right? I'm against it. All right? I always feel that you must get a feel of a variety of work before you decide what you like. Right? Don't straight away jump in, because in the course of your 1 year in practice, you see, wow, running down lawyers make a lot of money. Your client does running down, your friend who studied with you does running down work. And each time she closes, or he or she closes a file, he gets 3% of the fees. Or then you think, well, a lot of money here, so I want to. Don't do that. All right? Spend 2 or 3 years, get yourself involved in as many matters as possible, as many areas of the law as possible, get a feel of the field itself, and then you decide what you want to do. Because you do not want to specialize. All right, you start off 1 or 2 years, waste your time in that, and after 2 years decide, I don't like this. No, you can't do that. All right, decide the type of cases you want to do. All right, decide the type of clients you want to have. Decide the kind of work that you don't want to touch. All right, develop a knowledge in that preferred area. For example, look, you like to do civil litigation. All right, you like to do say land law matters. All right, then you focus on that area. Any issues in that area. All right, you can also tell yourself, maybe I don't want to do family law work. All right, it's not my cup of tea. I don't like this husband and wife fighting. They don't listen to lawyers. All right, I don't want to get into trouble. So you can tell yourself, look, maybe that kind of work I won't touch. All right, and then if at all you specialize, you specialize within a wider field. All right, it's not a very narrow stream. So decide the cases you want to have, you want to do. Very important. Decide the type of clients you want to have. Right. Some of us, look, we tell ourselves, I don't want to act for big companies. All right. Some of us, we always tell ourselves, we don't want to act for banks. All right. We don't want to act for insurance companies. All right. We don't want to act for sole proprietors, because very difficult for them to pay and all that. So you can decide on that. So you have a general idea. Look, these are the clients that I would like to deal with. So when the client comes in, while looking at the case, you're also looking at this background. Ladies and gentlemen, this doesn't mean that you're being very choosy. Some of us might be thinking that, how do I survive? You can survive, right? Take it from me. I have that. All right. As I said, I'm sharing my experience. When I started my practice, I basically told myself, look, I only do this kind of cases. I found it difficult because I don't want to specialize too much. All right. Then I decided, okay, I will not do this kind of cases. All right. there are 2 or 3 type of cases that I will never touch, even if it is undisputed. All right, even if it is no dispute, it's just a matter of going to court, getting a consent judgment, I do not touch it. All right. And then I also tell myself there are certain type of clients that I would like to act for. There are certain type of clients that I don't like to act for. Right. For many reasons. As you go on, you will know. And then if you like a particular area, develop knowledge in that area. That is how you develop your brand, your reputation. You develop your own brand. You want to be known for your work. So invest in books, develop your knowledge in that area, journals, online resources. I always tell people who are starting your new firm, if you're not able to subscribe any law report, it's okay. You can always go to the Johor library and get your report, but always invest in a good textbook. If you like to do, say, industrial law matters, all right, have 2 or 3 good books on industrial law. Every 2 or 3 years, update the textbook, all right, because that is your main source of work. So you focus on that. Always work together with lawyers who are good in that area of work. So if you know lawyers who are good in industrial law, all right, always try to mix more with them. When you see them in court, all right, when they're doing a particular case, sit there, spend some time, see how they're conducting the cases, all right. As they come out, if you have any issues, discuss with them, all right. Lawyers in town, we are all friendly lot, all right. We all look snobbish only, but actually we are friendly. Once you speak to us, we are very friendly, all right. So always come and share. So don't stop learning. Develop brotherhood, all right. Don't go to your office, go to work, go to your office 9 to 5, 5 o'clock, go back home, and that's it, all right. I always tell lawyers, develop brotherhood at the bar, develop teamwork, develop networking. How do you do it? This is one example, be active at the bar, join the bar activities, attend the bar function. That's one way of developing teamwork and brotherhood. All right. That's also you exchange ideas. Again, when you set up your firm, always develop a fee structure for yourself. All right. You must have, look, if I'm going to do a magistrate court case, a full trial, what would be my minimum fee? All right. If I'm going to do a high court matter, what would be my minimum fee? All right. Have some idea, right? So that you roughly know how much you will charge. All right. Your fees can either be a fixed fee, i.e. agreed fee, or even a conditional fee arrangement. Next, I move on. Lawyers, we are not trained as businessmen. As I said earlier, nobody teaches us all these business values. All right. So we got to do it ourselves. So you got to read up. All right. The other thing you should have is business plan. That's very important. When you start your firm, apart from your accounting planning, you must have a business planning. What is a business plan? It is a roadmap on how you intend to run the practice. What are your goals? How do you intend to achieve that goal? All right. So you must have this goal, this roadmap for you. The business planning will normally consist of what are the services that you'll be providing. All right. What will be your areas of practice? Right. What will be your financial plan? What will be your management plan? How do you intend to do your marketing? So you need to have that. Moving ahead, next one, financial planning. This is very important. Most of the time, young lawyers, when you start on your own, you have limited funds because, as I said, it's very difficult to obtain a bank loan. All right. Most probably, it will be your own savings, or you would have borrowed money from your family. All right. So you got to be very careful as to how you manage. All right. I always tell lawyers, plan your cash flow for the first 6 months. All right. And then as a backup for the next 6 months. All right. If you have reasonably good sum of money, then you can plan for 12 months. But I always say, try for 6 months. All right. Make sure you're comfortable for 6 months. Tell your family for the next 6 months, don't expect any money from me. All right. Forget about having your own taking. All right. For the 6 months, it's just a matter of collecting fees, putting it back into the firm, and take money only for your expenses. And then after the 6 months, plan for another 6 months. At the end of the 12 months, you relook at your planning. Do you think you have gone ahead? You have been successful? All right. If after the 12 months you feel it's not working, by all means, stop, go back and be an early. All right. Maybe you're not ready yet. All right. Do not feel embarrassed about it. Try. All right. There are many firms, you cannot have, there's a Malay saying that mati tak mau hidup segan. Something like that. Do not have a practice like that. Try for 6 months. Go for another 6 months. After 12 months, if it's not working, come out. Be bold about it. Go and work as an LA. Spend another 2 or 3 years. Gain a bit more knowledge. Come back. You will do much better. Always keep an eye on your profit and loss statement. All right. Always keep an eye on your cash flow worksheet. Work on all this. Do a break-even analysis. All right. Always stay close to the budget. Manage your expenses. The secret has always been for small firms, keep your overhead low. Don't be fancy. When you set up a firm, don't buy these expensive furnitures. Don't have a very fancy conference room. Don't buy too many journals or too many books. All right, that's not the way, because your overhead will be very high. But as you go on, as money comes in, then you reinvest. That's the way to go. Where do you get your idea? As I said, have a good accountant, have a good tax consultant. They will give you the idea. Next one, you got to do your management planning. Anis, I move forward. Management planning. This is basically your human resources. All right. Decide how many staff do you need. All right. Or are you going to do without staff? All right. If you're going to appoint a staff, how are you going to get your staff? Your hiring method. All right. Look, one of the hiring methods which I found to be very successful, especially for me, is muda.com. I think muda.com is a boon when it comes to appointing staff. All right. Consider that. Right. You don't have to advertise in the papers. How are you going to manage the staff? Are you going to have an office manager? All right, or are you going to manage the staff yourself? What would be the administrative system? How much delegation that you're going to give to your staff? All right, how much delegation there is going to be? What would be the salary scale? If you're going to employ them, are they going to be on a fixed term contract, or are they going to be on a permanent contract? A fixed term contract is a good idea. You just employ them for 1 year, and then you decide, do you want to continue? So that after that 1 year, you will know, look, can I continue? If you decide to close down after 1 year, you can always retrench the staff. All right, it's easier to terminate the staff. All right. Employ document management system. Use technology. All right. One way to keep your costs low is taking advantage of technology. Your dates management, your document management, your document storage, and all that. Take advantage of technology, which means you basically don't need large premises. All right. You can do a third-party storage, cloud storage system, and so on. So you don't need too many staff, and you don't need a large premises. Next one, very important. Client management. As Ani said, that's the most difficult part of our practice. How do you deal with this client? All right. Most of the time, the case is a good case, but halfway through you run into trouble because you cannot manage the client. And managing client, nobody teaches you, right? Nobody teaches you at the law school. Your master doesn't teach you. Your boss doesn't teach you. It comes through experience. Hence why it's very important that you must have some idea as to how to manage client. These are my tips. All right. Be cautious with clients who come in last minute, all right? Or clients who will go firm shopping, right? They would have gone to about 5 or 6 firms in town. They know the law already. They already have an idea. 70% of the law, they know already how to go about it. They'll come to you. The reason is to see whether what you're saying syncs with what they have obtained, all right? Just to check the opinion given by the other firm. So be cautious. Always be cautious with clients with the last minute, look, limitation setting in 1 week time, in a few days time. Appeal notice to be filed in 2 days time. All right, that kind of client, be very, very careful. Do you really want to act for that kind of client? Because you got to file a notice of appeal without knowing what is the matter all about, without knowing what kind of client you'll be dealing with. So be very cautious. Avoid clients with unrealistic expectations or demanding clients. Look, some client will come in and say, look, I want this. I don't care how to do it. I want the court to give me this order, this order, this order. In my practice, the moment a client comes and tell me, I want the court to give me this order, this order, this order, I will never act for that kind of client, because this kind of client you will never be able to manage. So avoid clients with unrealistic expectations. Your clients must know you're there to do your job. The court has got the final say. He might win the case. He may not get every relief that he's asking for. Right? So that's very important. Avoid that kind of clients, demanding clients. Always be aware of clients with poor attitude towards lawyers, courts, and the law. There are some clients who comes in, they will talk bad about lawyers. Oh, you lawyers like this, lawyer like that lawyer like this, that lawyer like this, that judge is like that, or why is the law like this? These are clients who have no idea, right, what lawyers do, who have no idea what judges do, who have no idea about the law, right? And they think, they know better. Please avoid these kind of clients, all right? Avoid clients who tell you what to do, all right? There's clients who comes and tell you, I want you to go and apply for this order. For example, somebody didn't pay him, all right? He comes and tell you, I want you to apply to wind up this company because he hasn't paid me. No, the client has got no business to tell you what to do. He can tell you his problem. You then tell him, look, these are the options in law, all right? You decide which option you want to take. That's how it works. So avoid clients who tell you what to do. Avoid clients who are not sure what they want from you or the court. Many a times you will see clients will come and tell you whole story A to Z. You listen to them after 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And then you ask him this question. So what do you want? All right. You will notice for the next 30 seconds, there is a total silence because the fellow will be wondering, why are you asking me what do I want? Because always remember, it's not for the lawyer to tell what the client wants. The client must first tell you, I got this problem. This is what I want. You will then decide what is the relief that is required in order for the client to get what he wants. All right. You don't suggest what the client should be getting. You're asking for trouble. All right. Ask the client what he wants first. Listen to his story first. All right. Along the way, make some note, and then finally, as he ended, ask him this question. So, what do you want? What do you want the court to do? That is very good because the client will know from day one what he will get from the court in the event he is successful and what he will never get, even if he's successful. It also makes your job easy. Always keep a written retainer, all right? Agreed fees. What would be your fees? What would be the terms of your fees? What would be the scope of your work? A written retainer is a must. It doesn't mean a lengthy agreement. It can just be a simple, a short letter. For example, in my practice, what I do, when the client comes in, I just prepare a letter. Okay, you're appointing me to act in this matter at the magistrate's court. My fees will be so much. All right. And always remember, put in my fees will be so much at the magistrate's court. So that in the event there's an appeal later, the client will cannot turn around and say, oh, that day you said your fees will only be so much. Right? So always a written retainer is a must. Of course, after listening to his story, the client will then ask you, what is your fees? Quoting fees, ladies and gentlemen, is a skill, all right, which a lot of us are learning even after 20 years or 30 years. The senior lawyers are damn good in it, all right? You must be able to quote the appropriate fee. When do you quote a fee? Don't quote a fee before the client tells you a story. The client will come and tell you, hey, I got this case. How much is your fees? No, don't quote your fees. Ask him, tell me the facts first. All right. As once he has given you the facts, you will be able to anticipate, okay, is there going to be a full trial? If the matter goes for a full trial, how many witnesses will be involved? Chances are this will be 1 day trial or 2 days trial. Will there be interlocutories? You will only know all this once you have listened to his story. So after that only, you quote your fee. Always quote your fee with a clear understanding of the work to be done. Now, if for some reason you feel, look, I can quote this fee so much, but then again, you want to keep provisions for yourself in the event there's a counterclaim. All right? Because the moment a trial, say I give you an example, a client comes in, termination of contract, there's an outstanding fee payable, he's claiming for compensation. So you know how much, what is the work involved. So you can quote a fee. But then you also anticipate there could be a counterclaim. And a counterclaim will be a separate work by itself. The moment you have quoted your fees now, later when there's a counterclaim, your client will not change his fees. He will not budge. So you can make a provision for yourself. So look, my fees will be so much for the trial. We'll file the claim. All right. I think this will be the defense. But in the event there's a counterclaim, I will revise my fees. All right. So that provision must be built in. Now, say in a certain situation where you are really not able to anticipate what will be the fees, then you quote a minimum fee, and then you quote what will be the highest fee. All right. And then keep a provision. Look, I may have to revise it and put it in writing. That is a safer bet, because many a times clients will agree to a certain fee, and later when you go back revise the fee, they disagree. Not only that, when you refuse to continue with the work, or you don't want to go on with the work anymore unless the fees is revised, they're going to lodge a complaint at the bar council, at the DB. You don't want that. Next, when the client comes in, verify the client's identity. Nowadays, Bank Negara requires us to do that. When the client comes in, he says, I am Mr. So-and-so. Ask him, can you show me your IC or not? All right, ask for the IC. Check whether his name tallies. Also check whether the IC is original IC or forged IC. The Bank Negara requirements, AMLA requirements, requires us to verify the client's identity, to also investigate. All right. Those days we used to say we are not private investigators. How do you expect when so-and-so comes and tell me he is Mr. So-and-so, he wants to file a claim, we take it. All right. No, that's no longer enough. Since 2 years ago, Bank Negara says you must investigate who's your client. How do you do it? What Bank Negara said is this: all you have to do what you can. So the worst that you can do, if this is a client that you have never acted before, then all you have to do is just do a Google search. All right, Mr. So-and-so, Ali bin Ishaq. Okay, you just do a Google search, Ali bin Ishaq. Do you get same hit? If you go in and you don't get your client, then something is wrong. All right, whatever information that you get in your Google search, print it, keep it in your file. The reason is, if later it turn around that Ali bin Ishaq is a fraudster, all right, who's involved in something, all right, or Achong or Mutu happen to be a fraudster, they are under your client, and they are involved in money laundering, the bank will ask you. Bank Negara will say, you did not do an identity check. That's actually an offense by itself, all right? So what Bank Negara said is, do what you can. The least that you can do is do a Google search. Do a Google search, you get the search results, print it and keep it in your file. Be familiar with the fee structure. As I said earlier, we are going back to fees. You can have a fixed fee or you can have a success fee. No contingency fee. All right. Success fee is meaning that success fee or conditional fee means you have a base fee. You can tell your client, okay, look, I will charge you 20,000. In the event you're successful, I will charge you another 10% or whatever you get. That is called a conditional fee or a success fee. All right. That is not contingency. And that is valid. There's already two decisions from the High Court, Job in Malaysia, and also from Singapore, which has said a conditional fee is not a contingency fee. A contingency fee is you get your fees only when you win, when your client wins. We don't win, we don't win, we don't lose. It's the client who wins, it's the client who loses. Right? So have an understanding of that. Keep a written record of all instructions. Manage the client's expectation. Don't promise the sky to your clients. Don't tell your client, oh, it's 100% case. Oh, this is, we got 70% chances of winning. Never. Forget about giving a percentage. All right. I get irritated. I get worked up whenever I heard a lawyer has said this is a guarantee win. Sure win. We got 80% success. Clients ask us all the time. After telling you their story, they'll ask you, hey, what are the chances like? Then you say, well, I think you got a good claim. Then the fellow will ask you, client will ask you, what are the percentage? 50%, 60%, 70%? You just tell them this. I don't do percentage. I don't do percentage. We are not in the percentage business. All right. I can tell you, I think you got something worth fighting. Or if you think the client has got something that's not worth fighting, he's got a lousy case, tell him, you got a lousy case. You do not want to take a case telling the client is a good case. And later when the outcome is not up to the client's expectation, you don't want the client to blame you because the client will say, look, if you had told me it's a lousy case, I wouldn't have invested in it. I wouldn't have proceeded with the matter. So don't get into trouble because they will say that you have misled the client, right? You don't want that. So manage client's expectation. Relationship management. Look, from my own experience, I've seen in the first 2-3 years of your practice, we all have time for the client. But later, as you get busy with work, we become too busy for the clients. All right? I've seen this happening in many firms. When the client calls, very difficult to see the lawyer. It's the staff who answers. It's the staff who tells the client what to do and all that. Then who is the lawyer here? The client comes to the firm because of you. So you don't delegate your responsibility to the staff. And problem will happen because the staff might mislead. All right, coming to court, the client will call, when do I have to come to court? Staff who have no idea about the matter. Staff will say, no need lah, this kind of matters normally my lawyer will handle. You don't need to come. And then if it's a hearing, a final hearing, matter gets struck off, who is in trouble? So always tell, never be too busy for a client. However busy you are, all right, a client walks in without an appointment, put aside all your work, see him, tell him, look, you have come in without appointment, I'll see you for 5 minutes, but you got to excuse me after that. He will respect you because you have taken the time, number one. Number two, the next time he walks, you will never walk in without fixing an appointment, all right? Thirdly, he will respect you because you have been honest about it, right? Now, of course, I've given this kind of talk before. Some lawyers have said, look, if you're being so choosy like this, you will never get client. No, don't fall into that trap. You will always get client. And most importantly, if you follow this, you will get good client, all right? Always remember this. I see firms, especially new firms, the young lawyers, you all are coming up with all kinds of things. I've seen lawyers who have business development manager, all right? They have a business development officer, and these guys all carry a card. I always tell this, the best business development officer or manager that you can ever get, or the best publicity manager that you can ever get, is your own client. You do a good work for your client will go and tell the whole town about it. And that doesn't mean that you must win your case. Even if you don't win your client's case, all right, even if the outcome was not successful, your client would have known that you have done your best. All right, you have explained all the intricacies of the case to him. You have taken him on a journey through the case. All right, and he knows that the moment you take him along in your journey, your client will know, hey, you have done your best. He would have known you have mastered the case. You have kept him educated. All right, you have spent a lot of time on it. So when the outcome is not in your favor, your client will say, hey, I know you have done your best. He will still go out and recommend you. Anyone within his circle looking for a lawyer, he will still recommend you. You say, I know this lawyer, a very hardworking lawyer. You go and see him. All right, because he knows you're honest. you tell the client, know what is it about. So you get good client. It's always the quality that matters. You can have, instead of having 10 useless clients, you can have 3 good clients. All right, may not be good paymasters, but you know they will pay you. All right. So these are the best business development managers that you can get. Instead of engaging these people who goes around passing around cards, putting up banners and buntings and all that, it doesn't work like that. You know, we are not provision shops, lah, for God's sake. Now, of course, always keep the client informed. All right. You know, there are law firms that I know who only tell the client, okay, come to court. They never tell the client, okay, we went for case management. This is the directions of the court. All right. File agreed bundle, pleading, statement of list of issues. All that you must inform the client. All right. There are lawyers who tell me no need to inform the client lah because the client won't understand all this. No, it doesn't matter. When you put all this, the client knows a case management means work. It doesn't mean just going and coming. All right. You go to court 10 times, tell the client, inform the client 10 times. Each time, what was the direction and whether, and we will attend to it. Why? Many reasons. Number one, the client knows. If you suffer, the client must also suffer. The client knows how much work you're doing. At the end of the day, when you send your fees, the client will understand why your fees is so much. Imagine 10 case management, he gets 10 letters informing the stage. Instead of only the first one, we have filed the case, the next one, attend the hearing, third one is the decision. You only think you only went to court 3 times, or I got letter, only 3 letters. All right. Certain practices, like for example, what I do is I send copies of pleadings to the client. All right. I send copies of affidavits to the client. I tell client A to Z about directions. Even submissions, you know, now, the last few years, many lawyers don't send the submission. Nowadays, we even send submissions, copies of submissions to the client. We receive a submission from the other side, we send a copy to the client. We do a reply, we tell the client. Of course, when you send the submission, the client will not understand. So you can tell him, look, this is the submission, 30, 40 pages. Especially when you're doing work with care lawyers, what is 30 pages will become 60 pages. All right. Now, you do that, and then you can summarize the submission to your client. So look, this submission is 30 pages long, but in gist, this is what they're saying. These are their issues they're raising. We will be replying to this. So the client knows how much work is involved. So keep the client informed. Then, you know, they will later appreciate you. They will know that whatever that you are charging is justified. They know how much work you have done. That's number one. And number two, even if the outcome is not what was expected, they will know that you have done your best. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I rushed through a bit because we started late and I don't want to hold everyone until long past beyond the time. Yes, Anis?
Okay.
Hey, all right. Thanks a lot, Jam. You know, we still have a bit of time. I think let's do some questions. You know what resonated when you were telling me about this business development manager was that you know, I once told the client you'll 100% lose the case, and I ended up getting appointed anyway.
Yeah.
Because of a referral of another client. You know, there was that transfer of trust. You know, and it's kind of true. You know, and what the other thing that resonated with me was when we quote the client, sometimes we don't account of what difficult opponent that you may have.
Correct.
And you got to call back the client and say, okay, this particular lawyer is going to make my life a living hell, so I'm going to charge you double. You know, those are very realistic things, you know. Okay, I do have 3 questions, so I hope I'll try to fit this in within 20 minutes. I have 1 for you, Anis, and I have 3 for you, Jaya. Number 1, about choosing the partner, you know. I remember before I set up my own office, I consulted senior lawyers and all that, and the way it sounded was like marriage advice, you know. It's like, this is how you choose your wife, you know. So you said you briefed us on what type of partners to choose from. Now, what pitfalls are we looking for when choosing a partner in a law firm, or when going into an existing partnership? You know, what toxicity are we looking out for? You know, in choosing a partner.
Okay, the most obvious danger is getting someone who is not flexible. All right, someone who is fixated in his own views, someone who is not open to criticism. I think that is the most difficult. That is the most obvious danger that you're looking at if you get the right partner. It can be someone who have no idea about the law, all right, but someone who's prepared to listen, someone who's prepared to listen to your views, and then prepared to accept that he's wrong. All right, it's very difficult to get that. So what you should be looking at is, instead of looking at his experience, his qualification, whether he can bring in work or not, ask yourself this question: is this a person who will be prepared to accept criticism? Is this someone who will listen to my advice? All right. Supposing you're 5 years in practice, you're setting up a partnership with someone who is 20 years in practice. All right. Ask yourself, supposing if I tell him, look, I don't want to take this kind of work, do you think he will listen to me? All right. Supposing if I tell him, I think we should do work in this way, will this person listen to me? All right. If you think this is not the kind of person who is open to new ideas, who may not be prepared to accept criticism, don't take the risk. All right. Ability to bring in work, ability to do the work, to me is secondary. A partnership, if you decide to go into partnership, you must look at the long term. And just like marriage, it's not how pretty, pretty and all that is the very beginning. It's only the mentality. All right. Are you able to give and take, accept criticism, and accept that you could be wrong at some time? All right. And sometimes you may feel that your partner is dumb-wit, he's stupid, what he's saying is wrong, but sometimes you got to let them do it. Right? Because I've seen, ask yourself, why is it that some of the older partnerships, they remain strong even after 30 years or 40 years, Right? And then when you see, when these two guys talk to each other, they're so friendly to each other. They can even have a go at each other. Right? Because each one of them accept the other's mentality, the ability to throw criticism, to accept criticism. That I think is number one right there. Most important thing.
Yeah, it's starting to sound like marriage advice. Oh, yeah, because I think that's quite important. I think you and I both, we've handled partnership disputes before, and they do fight over tables and chairs, and in a real case like they fought over the air conditioner and who gets the air conditioner, and sometimes the clerk, and they are stuck in between. So that's something that's quite important. Secondly, my question is about separating. Sometimes the lawyers have been there for 3-4 years. The fear of separating from their current boss, is sometimes very heavy for them. Because they don't want to burn bridges, and they know that when these things happens, clients will stop and will go to them and things like that. So what's the best approach for a lawyer, a young lawyer, to ease it in with their boss? I mean, is there a transitional period? Do you disclose it upfront, or do you just drop the hammer and says, okay, I'm gone next week, opening my own office? What's your advice to that?
Okay, don't drop the hammer. All right. I think you should ease it in, especially when you've been at the firm for a very long time, right? 3 or 4 years, and your boss has trusted you a lot, he has given you a lot of responsibilities. I think you must tell him, even before you start planning, at least about 4 or 5 months in advance. Look, I'm already thinking about going on my own. I'm thinking about this idea. What do you think about it? So that he becomes part of the process. All right. I think they will appreciate it in that manner. If the boss that you are mentioning is someone in that mold, right? Someone is so understanding, he'll actually appreciate it. He will understand that it's time for you to go and do on your own. All right. And you'll be very surprised. They will actually be very supportive of you as well. They'll probably help you in setting up, give you some ideas so that you become more prepared. Just don't throw away a notice, a 1 month notice or 2 months notice, quietly go out and then suddenly set up your own firm. I think that's not the way to go about it. That's when you burn bridges. You know why? They'll be upset with you, not so much because you left. They'll be upset because you have not been strict with them. You have not been honest with them. They'll be wondering, look, if you had told me that you are setting up on your own, I wouldn't have done anything. Why is it that you are hiding it from me? So I think it is to your advantage. Tell them, ease it in. Look, I'm planning to set up on my own. I intend to go before you even give the notice. So that be fair to the firm, he can also prepare for a replacement. But you must be firm in your mind. You must tell yourself, I'm going to tell him. He's going to ask me to reconsider. He'll tell me it's too risky. Time is bad. Why are you taking the risk? But I made up my mind. And you must tell him that. Look, I think I'm going to take the risk. I hope to get your support. I think that's the best way to go.
And sometimes these former employers can, they can pass you some files and say, look,
correct.
If you're handling this one, please continue it,
True.
And that's good startup money, right?
Yep. That's the right way to go about it. And particularly when it is a firm where, the partner is already, the existing partner or the existing boss is already looking into slowing down his practice, you'll be more than happy to pass down the clients to you, even to enter into a fee sharing arrangement. Look at this. He knows all the clients. He doesn't know how to do work. You know how to do the work, but you got no contact.
Mm.
All right. So it works in that way. Ease it in.
Okay. We have a question from Siti Nabila. I think this is in line with my question, and she asked, "What's the cost to open a sole proprietor, or any estimated cost?" And my question was in the like of that as well, because when I started out, me and my partner as well, we started out with 10,000, together, to start up, but we don't know in nowadays how much do we need to save to actually start the ball going, but start the ball rolling. Maybe both of you can help me with that
Okay.
question.
Anis, you want to take that or you want me to answer first?
You can go first. I'll
Okay.
cover.
I always like the 6 months arrangement. All right. The most important thing is you must have enough funds to pay your rental for the next 6 months. Number one. If you're employing staff, and I think you should start with the staff, all right, at least one staff, you must have enough funds to pay the staff salary for the next 6 months. That's the basic. These two must be ready, all right? Of course, with the bills and all that, we should come too much. You must be prepared that you will not be taking home anything for the next 6 months. So that's where you must tell your family, don't expect any money from me. You have any, car installments, house installment, and so on, that has to come from another set of fund. All right, your own fund, but you segregate that. That will not come from the firm. So in that sense, you are insulating your firm from any other risk for the next 6 months. The problem is when you have all that for the 6 months, but then you're also taking money from there and to pay for your cars, for your house. That means you're no longer insulating your firm. The next 6 months, for the first 6 months, you must insulate your firm. You must be prepared. You must tell yourself, I'm going to get zero income for the next 6 months. All right. So you will not be worried, even not a single client walks in, because you have the funds. How much? Then I feel, look, if you're looking at setting up in a shop lot, all right, maybe a sum of 20,000. I think 20,000 is good enough. All right. To give you my own experience, I mean, I don't mind disclosing. When I started my own about 6-7 years ago, I budgeted for 6 months, and I only had 15,000 with me. I had 15,000. All right. I had some work that came in, but for the first 6 months, I didn't take anything. Of course, which means that I have kept another source of income for me, your own savings. All right. That's very important, You know why? So that after 6 months it's not working, all right, or after the additional 6 months is not working, you can always go back. And personally, you have not suffered a deeper financial cost because your other incomes other expenses are being taken care of, you see. So 15 to 20,000, if in Johor Bahru, that should be good enough.
Okay. Anis?
Okay, so I agree with Jaya, but I also think that when you start up, you must be aware and you must accept your limitations.
Yeah.
So if you have 15 to 20,000, you don't imagine a fancy office,
Yeah.
you don't imagine having a lot of staff. So you must manage your expectations. It must match what you have. So if you have very little, you must remember, okay, I must find a small space to rent. I must find a staff that has very limited experience, because if you want to hire staff that have experience, you must be ready to pay. And when I started, I didn't have the money to pay, so I could only get someone that just finished, actually finished school. So these are little things that you need to expect, and you should know that the moment you close a file, it's exciting to finally really receive a big chunk of money, but you can't touch it. Especially since we've just gone through a pandemic. There were few months when firms were not making any money. So you must have money in your reserves. You can't be, buying a new car or whatever. You must make sure you have enough so that you can pay for all the months that you don't have income. Because the reality is some months you don't have income.
No, you will not get income. You must be prepared for that. You just tell yourself, I'm not going to get any income for the next 6 months. So there's no sense of disappointment there later,
Exactly.
All right, at least you're overhead. So financially, you will not suffer a bigger cost.
Okay. I think in line of budgeting, I think I want to direct this to Anis before we conclude. When I first started, I heard this from many lawyers as well. We handled the filing and the service of the documents and all that. We did ourselves. At every stage of the process, including going to court, taking judgment, whatever. And at the same time, when you're working as an LA in a big firm, there's someone to handle SSM searches or bankruptcy searches. You just say the name and they'll come in 10 minutes with a search. So I think, Anis, what I want to ask you is that how important is it for a person opening up to be involved at every stage of the process, and who should we hire to delegate what task, you know, instead? So my question is like, okay, if you're doing litigation and part of it is service, is it more important to start up that firm with a process server or a dispatch, or the clerk is more important? Which one would you prioritize in setting up?
Okay, from my experience, so I mostly do litigation. I do a bit of conveyancing. But when you start up, you have a vision, your intention. But what comes, your files and all that might not match that vision. So the reality is, I think when you start up small. So you start up with yourself and maybe just one clerk. And you see whether you can manage that or not. If between the two of you, you can manage it, then maybe you don't need a process server. But once you start expanding, I think that's the time you actually look at options. You look at who else you need to get. So when I started getting more conveyancing files, then only I started looking for an office boy runner that can go to land office to do the serving for me. So the idea is always start up small and see what the need is. And then if you start up big and you employ all these different people, then you are at the risk of having a big overhead. It's true what Mr. Jaya said. The secret to making money, I think, or being comfortable is keep your overhead low. It does mean that you must do more work on your own, but at least you know that you can survive a few more months and you are comfortable. If you keep your overhead high, you're in trouble because you have to pay a lot every single month out. But yes, you must be familiar with the accounts. You must be familiar with managing your staff. I think you must have a hand in every part of it, because then only you know the reality, then only you know the expenses. And also you must make sure not to touch your client's money, because the temptation will be there when you do conveyancing. You have $1 million in your account. Maybe the consent file I can touch 10,000, but you can't. So manage your expectations and manage your accounts and manage your firm properly, and you should be okay.
Jaya, what do you think? What's your position in terms of prioritizing the startup cost? Because I started with plastic chairs. I didn't care so much for the office. Where would you put yours in this day and age?
I think you can start with one staff, all right? You start with one staff. I think we are all reasonably good in handling computers, all right? So paper, most of the typing we can do. What you need the staff is most of the time, from my own experience, is look, when the client comes in, someone to attend to them, number one. Someone to do the, taking care of the faxes, the emails, the envelopes and all that. Basically to do those kind of work. You do the typing yourself, and then finishing touches. That's all you do. So one staff, I think if you want to start, you must have one staff. Okay, forget about the dispatch and all that you can get part-timers. Right, they will come and do it. Even courier charges are very low nowadays, so you can do it in that way. We used to think, I know 20 years ago, we used to think that you must have a dispatch boy. All right, I know firms that used to have 2 dispatch boys, 3 dispatch boys. Nowadays, they all use part-timers. All right, so forget about having a dispatch boy. Don't invest too much in your stationaries, in your furnitures, tables and chairs. That's why I say it's very important. Have an idea what kind of client, what kind of work, and what kind of client you're going to deal with. All right. If you have a very fancy setup, expensive tables, expensive chairs, certain of clients, when they come in, they look at your office, they run away. You know why? They'll think, oh, this one's an expensive lawyer. All right. And you'll only attract that kind of client. So don't spend too much. Take the bare necessities, something reasonably good, and then you progress, you develop as you go ahead. Don't spend too much, because I know firms that are setting up, they want to have a large office. All right, they want to have 3 or 4 staff. They want to have a nice conference room. They want to have a library. I mean, all those are good necessities. But if you're starting small, I think you can dispense with all that. All right? Have a nice, comfortable place where when the client comes in, they can wait for you. All right. And then when they see you in your room, that your tables, your chairs, your room is large enough. So not necessarily you must have a separate conference room. People always think about that. Some will be thinking having a makan area, having a pantry and all that. No need for all that. If you progress after 1 year, if you do well, you can always move or maybe take the next door. But then again, having said that, I think when you are setting up your firm, you must also keep in mind there could be a potential expansion. So if you're looking for a place, for example, in an office floor, all right, when you take up, keep that in mind because you cannot move out, once your rental is signed. So you just keep options for that so that if you want to expand, the next door is available.
It's true. I ran out of space in 3 years, to put my documents.
Yep.
That takes a bit of
That
space.
happens, yes.
Okay.
And some of us, sometimes we stop at a particular place, we like the place so much, you also don't want to leave,
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we take one question from the participants?
Yes.
Before we go?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Lim is asking, what can a sole proprietor lawyer do when they decide to step out of his comfort zone and try to do a case that he's not familiar with? Is there a support group that he can get support from? So it means, yeah. So what do you think?
Okay. My suggestion is, look, if you're going to do a work that you have never dealt with, we do not have a support group system as such, all right? But although at the Small Firms Committee, we do have a mentor-mentee list, all right? If you go to the Malaysian Bar website, we actually set up a mentor-mentee list. That could be helpful, maybe no. But in Lim's situation, what I would suggest, look, why not, your first time going to do the matter, you have never done it. I'm sure you can find out a lawyer who has done it before, all right? You can consult that person, but that only person will share so much of his secret, all right? So what you can do is ask that person to come on board, all right? Maybe come and do as your counsel for that one particular matter. And you must be prepared to share your fees with him. And you look at it as an investment for your professional development. You know why? It is a learning trip for you, all right? You are getting some money, you are foregoing some money for the learning experience. You learn the trade, you observe how he does the matter, and that's it. Once the next client comes in, you are able to do it by yourself. So it's a learning experience. Treat every matter as a learning experience. Be prepared to share fees for these kind of matters.
Okay.
The problem is sometimes, because of economics, we are not prepared to bring in another counsel, right? We don't want to share fees. But then again, that doesn't work to you, to your advantage, all right? Look at it as an investment for your professional development. I'm going to learn. I'm being paid. My client is paying me to learn this work, all right? But I'm going to share the fee with someone else. And when the next matter comes in, I'll be able to do it myself.
Yeah, similar matter comes in, right?
Similar matter. Yeah. And chances are matters will come. I think patience is very important. Don't, after 2 months, 3 months, you don't get any client or you don't get big clients, fees are small. I think always look at it that you are in a marathon. It's a long run. All right. There's no finishing line here, it continues.
True.
If I may add, so just regarding the support group, something that I've experienced personally, not a support group per se, but having mentors or having seniors like Mr. Jaya, who genuinely you call him, you ask him a question, he will help you to his best abilities. So I think it's good that you maintain a good relationship with lawyers you've worked with, people from your previous firm, or even people, opposing counsels. If you maintain a good relationship with them, eventually maybe next time if you have a question, you can ask them. So it's always good to maintain a relationship at the bar. It's very important.
I think that's very important, yeah, because, you go to court while waiting for your case, there are other lawyers, make friends with them.
Correct.
Get to know them, all right? You do a matter with the lawyer on the other side, make friends with them. I mean, you can fight, all right? You can tear each other, while the case is going on. But after that, just call him, go for a tea. Everything will be forgotten. All right, don't keep it hard. Work is only so much. Don't say the fellow is a lousy lawyer, and so don't make the fellow is a lousy person, and don't judge anyone. Look, we all are there to do our best for the client. All right, we all come across difficult lawyers, people that we don't want to see. But we're all doing our best for our client. You see, it's a matter of how you manage it.
Okay. All right, so I think that's pretty much it for today's webinar. Thank you, Anis, for organizing it, and thank you, Jaya, for taking up your Saturday.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jaya.
The link is attendance is right down there in your window. If you're on Facebook, I've already posted the link, so make sure you do that to claim your CPD points. All right, so everyone, I wish you all a nice weekend, and remember to wear your mask.
Sorry, I wanted to share something.
Yeah.
You see, somehow I had it here and I forgot it. I know a lot of you who are setting up a firm. I just want to share this bit of information. This American Bar Association,
Yes.
they actually come up with the annual report every year, all right? They have a committee for small firms, and they always come up with this report called the Small Firms Report, all right? So they just did their report, which was published about 3 or 4 months back. So they did a survey and wanted to identify what are the top 10 greatest challenges that small firms face today, all right? I mean, if you're going to set up your firm, chances are a small firm. This is what they say, and I think if all of us can relate to this and then prepare ourselves. 27% said the challenges in acquiring new client. 27%, and I think we can relate to that. Getting new. How many of us actually getting new client? Most of the time is a repeat client, right? And then 15% said, look, we are spending too much time doing administrative tasks. Like what you said just now, when you set up your own firm as a sole proprietor, you will notice that 40% of our time, that survey actually shows, 40% time is spent doing administrative work. So for the 40% of your time, no one is paying you. All right, whatever fees that you're collecting, that 40% is burned. All right. Now, 12% actually say that they cannot handle with complexity of technology. All right, because they say technology is getting complex, they're not able to handle it, and they are phasing out practice. Same thing is happening here now as well. The courts are moving towards paperless hearing, e-hearing. And amongst lawyers, the take-up when it comes to technology, our rate is very slow. So we all got to change. All right, don't run away from technology. All right, there are lawyers who are thinking of leaving practice because by end of this year, High Court is going to do everything paperless. All right, by next month, the Court of Appeal and the Federal Court is going to go totally paperless. And the already lawyers are thinking of leaving because they say, oh yeah, this is too difficult, we cannot handle. All right, technology, you got to change yourself. 10% complain about information overload from growth in documents because they say that too much of paperwork, too much of information, they are not able to handle it. All right. The same thing with us, paperwork after paperwork, documents after documents coming in. We are not able to manage those overload. All right. 7% complain about increasing pace of legal and regulatory change. The laws are changing. All right. And 7% think they're not able to handle it. And here in Malaysia, it will be our AMLA requirements. All right. Ask ourselves, how many firms are actually complying with the Bank Negara guidelines? Simply because we all say, oh, it's very difficult to compare. Our regulatory laws are becoming stricter and stricter to overcome anti-money laundering, to overcome anti-terrorism issues, and so on. 21% complain that clients are demanding too much. All right. In other words, clients are demanding more for less. They pay you so much fees only, but they want more, much more than that. 21% they complain about that. 13% said they couldn't control the costs and the expense growth. So that's the reason why firms remain stagnant. Right? They remain as it is, they can't move forward. 12% suffers from the issue of succession planning. All right? After 3 years or 4 years, you've always been going on as a sole prop. After 10, 15, you do not know what to do because you're not ready. You're too old to bring in someone. What do you do with your firm? All right? Not many of us have children to take over the firm. We have never thought about it. All right? So succession planning. Partnership. If you're into a partnership, you must always keep an option. There will be a time in future where a new partner will have to be admitted in order to continue the growth of the firm. It cannot be a closed partnership. So when a new partner comes in, the older partners must be prepared to reduce their shareholding. All right, that is succession planning. All right, 9% complain of lack of internal efficiency. We all suffer from this. All right, what can be done within 20 minutes, we spend the whole day. Right? Unless you will recall, if you are preparing a letter, you prepare the letter, you give it to your staff. Your staff will type, give it back to you. You check, give it back, prepare another one. You check, give it back. Then they give you the final copy. All right? That would have taken about 3 hours. You would have looked at you would have looked at the same draft 4 times. But you could have done it in the first go itself. Yourself. So that 3 times, that's a wastage. Time and also cost. All right? So that points to your internal efficiency. And then 6% they complain about they're not able to keep up with changes in the legal market. All right? Basically because it's becoming too competitive. All right? Firms are going, the marketing, the way they do things is rapidly expanding, One example that I can give you, look, until the MCO started, how many firms have organized webinars? No, only the bar was doing. PSDC talks and all that the bars were doing. But during the MCO period, and now, you notice or not, firms are organizing talks about law. All right? sometimes you are wondering, who's this person? You never heard. They're giving all kind of talks. Right? Firms are doing it by themselves. Again, firms that are not able to compete with that, you lose out. See, because those firms, they organize these talk, webinar talks from the comfort of their office, they conduct training and all that. They gain much more coverage amongst the potential clients. Clients are also smart. Nowadays, they look, if they have any particular issue, they look for firms that organize this kind of talks. So you're unable to compete with that. These are the challenges. So I think those of us, small firms, and those who intend to open up a small firm, you will come across, these are the issues that you'll be facing. Be prepared to address this. And don't run away. Don't be too afraid when you have this. All of us suffer from the same problem. Look, I had the same problem. Anis had the same problem. Fadil had the same problem. And we can always, we can resolve it. Have confidence. I think that's why important. Confidence is very important.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Have a nice day, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you. All
Thank
right.
you,
Thank you.
Anis.
Bye.
Dale.
Thank you, Mr. Jah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.